Hi everybody! In this video I'll show you how to build a web database application without coding using DaDaBIK. The idea is to build a simple sales management application. We manage our products, our brands, our sales, our customers. We'll also build the chart reports and a few other things. Alright, so let's start. First of all, we have to create a database. Okay? And I'm using MySQL Workbench here. It is a free tool. You can use the tool you prefer. You can even use the MySQL console, or maybe you already have a database. In that case, you can skip this part. DaDaBIK supports MySQL, PostgreSQL, and SQLite database. So File, New Model. I choose the name of the database. Let's call it My First DaDaBIK App, for example. And then I add a new diagram. I create a table customers containing ID customer, that is the primary key. For each table we need a primary key, a field that doesn't allow duplicates. In this case, you cannot have two customers having the same ID. It is also auto-increment field, that's why I selected AI, which means the ID will be automatically incremented by MySQL when we insert a new customer. Then we have the name of the customer and email. Okay, other table, products, ID, name, then price, that is float, can contain decimal fractions, and quantity, that is the amount of product we have in our warehouse. And then brands, ID, brand, primary key, and name brand. Okay, relationship. We want to link products to brands. Each product is related to a brand. So I add a relationship and automatically the ID brand field is added to the products table as a foreign key. Okay. Then sales, here I register all my orders, ID sale, primary key, date, time, sale. So this table is in relationship with customers. Each sale has its linked customers, so I add a relationship. Also, each sale can contain several products. We can say that the relationship between sales and products is many to many, so we need an additional table to handle that. We create this table, we call it sales products. Okay, we have ID sale product as primary key, and we link sales product to sales and to products. So now for each records of sales products, we also have the ID of the sale and the ID of the product. Since each product might be added to the sale with a quantity greater than 1, for example, my sale contained 2 iPhone 7 and 3 USB sticks, we also need a quantity field. You might think that we could use ID product plus ID sale as a primary key for this table. You're right, but some DaDaBIK features require a unique key on a single field, so we keep the primary key suggested by MySQL Workbench. That's it. We just need to export to create the SQL statements, so file export, and to execute those SQL statements. So execute, and that's it. Database created. Okay, now we have to install DaDaBIK on the top of this database and configure our application. I create a folder under my web root. We call it Data Sales. Then this is a DaDaBIK release. I just have to copy everything I have in program files to the folder I've just created. Then I open config.php and I set the few required parameters. So the first one is serial number. Then DBMS type, that is already MySQL, so for us it's fine. Then host, database name, my first DaDaBIK app, and then user and password to access the database. Finally, we have to fill a secret key. I just put a random long sentence here, and DaDaBIK session name. Again, just a random word. That's it. Save. Okay, so let's launch the installation script from our browser. Localhost datasales install.php. Click on install, and that's it. DaDaBIK has already created a basic web application according to the schema of our database. Let's see it. Root, password Letizia, is the default admin user. So for each database table, we have a menu item, and DaDaBIK has created the needed forms to search, insert, modify records. DaDaBIK tries to guess the correct settings for each field according to the database schema. For example, here, because the field email customer contains the word email, DaDaBIK guessed it is an email field and validates the address before insertion. Of course, you can change the settings if you don't like what DaDaBIK guessed. Let's insert another customer, Sylvia, for example. All right, we have search features, but quick search and advanced search. We can add some more data now. For example, a couple of brands. So brands, create new, one Apple, and then again, create new, two. Okay, techniques. Okay, let's move to products now. Do you remember we set a relationship between products and brands? Technically, it means we set a referential integrity constraint. So DaDaBIK automatically set the brand field in the products form as a lookup field. The content of the field comes from the brands table. You can choose Apple or Technics. It's time to improve our application. The tool you will use a lot to refine your app is the form configurator. Basically, in the form configurator, for each table and for each field, you can set several parameters. For example, field customers, ID customers in table sales. Let's change the form label. Let's call it just customer, for example. And then field type. We have select single here. That is the drop-down menu you already saw before for the brand, and it's fine. DaDaBIK guessed it correctly. Then we have the content type that impacts on validation and formatting, and then you have the possibility to use custom functions to format, validate, and do other things, but we'll see that in another episode. Then we have some parameters strictly related to the field type we chose. In this case, we have the table we are getting values from, the field we want to show to the user in the menu, name customer. These are all parameters chosen by DaDaBIK during installation, but of course I can change them. We can also have a cascade drop-down menu. We can set a default value and so on and so forth. We can set a field as required, check for duplicated entries during insert, and also add a master detail view, also called subform, and we will see this in a few minutes. And finally, we have some parameters we can use to adjust the layout of the form. For the moment, we are happy with this configuration, so save, and we have changed only the label. The other tab you will use a lot is the Permissions tab. Here, for each table, you can set which operations are allowed and who is allowed to execute such operations. By default, we have two groups, admin and default. Of course, you can add more groups and more users. So let's configure the admin group first. So in the first part of this page, I set which operations are allowed for the table: read, delete, edit, create, details. In the second section, I can set the permissions on a field level. For example, you want to allow edit on a table, but you don't want a particular field to be editable. So you disable edit just for that field. One thing you probably want to do for primary key auto-increment fields is to hide them from the insert form. You don't want the user to assign a value, you want the value to be assigned automatically, right? So for example here, for ID sale, we say create no. Okay, let's go back to the application. Now, if I insert a sale, I have just daytime and customer, because the ID sale is hidden. Okay, let's improve our application. I want to represent more information for sales and products. So let's go back to MySQL Workbench. For sales, I want an additional field status that tells me if the sale is just a quote or an actual order. So we can use the same table to represent both orders and quotes. And I want to add another field that tells me who is the owner of the sale. Let's say we have several sale representatives that use this application. When a sale representative registers an order, we want to automatically record that he or she is the owner of the order. Let's apply the changes. I want to add a couple of fields in products as well. In particular, a picture for the product that I can upload from my computer, and a categories fields. Let's say a product can belong to one or more categories, but in this case we don't normalize the database design. We don't use an additional table. We simply put all the categories in this field separated by a character, and we'll see how DaDaBIK will handle with this later. All right, apply. Okay, if you modify your DB schema, as we did, and you want your DaDaBIK application to reflect that, you have to synchronize DaDaBIK. It's very simple. Let's start with the products table, DB synchro, and then add fields. Okay, two fields added, picture and categories, done. Now we have to set the permissions. When you add new fields, by default, all the permissions are set to no. For example, we set the permissions just for the admin group, and we set everything to yes for those fields. Last thing is the form configurator. For picture field, the field type is set as a normal text field, basically a text box. But we want an image field type, and save. For categories products, we want to be able to select the categories from a list of checkboxes. So we choose select multiple checkbox, and we specify the options here, separated by this character. Okay, so smartphones and computers and tablets, for example. Okay, let's go back to the application to see the results. create new. So as you can see now, we have a picture field. We can upload pictures from our computers, and a categories field, which is a list of checkboxes. Okay, let's do exactly the same thing for sales. DB synchro, add fields, right, and then set permissions. We add the permissions for admin. Let's do a yes to all, it is just a test, but we set no for the owner field create permissions, because we don't want this field in the insert form. The value will be registered automatically, and let's see how in a few seconds. And yes, but disabled for edit. We want to see the field in the edit form without being able to modify it. And I'll basically do the same for the other users group, the default one. All right. Okay, then forms configurator. All right, owner, sale. Field type is ID user. With this DaDaBIK field type, every time you insert a new record, the username of the logged user is registered. Status sale, we want a drop-down menu, so select single, but this time is not a lookup field. We want the options hard-coded here. So, quote, order, and quote. Let's go back to the application and let's try to insert a new sale. All right, so date, customer, and as you can see, I can choose the status now, and after the insertion, I can see that DaDaBIK correctly registered my username as the owner of the record. Okay, let's assume to add some records now, some data to our database. I do it offline. Welcome back. Now, as you can see, we have more records in customers, brands, products, sales. I've also added some additional users. One thing we can do to improve the application is to use a master details view features, also called the subform. When you are viewing a sale, you probably want to see in the same page the products included in the sale itself, which means that we want sales and sales products in a master details form. It is very simple. We need to use the form configurator. So let's go to the admin section. Form configurator, sales. For the primary key of the table, ID sale, we set a master details view, choosing the related table, sales products, and the foreign key of the related table, sales ID sale. It is the field that contains a reference to the sale record. Right. Let's go back to the application now. Okay, sales. If we enter a sale in edit mode, now we can see the related items. We have 2 items in this sale. And of course, we can also add a new item. Let's go with an additional improvement. Let's say you want to have a menu item that provides a fast access to all the sales that are in quote status. To do that, we can use a view. A view is like a virtual table built on the top of another table. In DaDaBIK, it works more or less as a real table. Let's go to the admin section, Pages tab, that allows to manage all the settings related to the pages that compose our application, pages based on tables, views, or custom pages. We can create a view directly from here. We call it quotes, and we define it as select all from sales where status sale equals to quote. That means get all the columns from the sales table, but only for the records having status quote. All right, create view. Now we have to install the view. After the installation of DaDaBIK, any new table or view that you add later needs to be installed in DaDaBIK if you want to use it in your application. We also have to set a unique key. It is ID sale as it was in the sales table. When you install a table, DaDaBIK is able to automatically detect the unique key. Normally it's the primary key of the table. When you install a view, you have to specify it. Then permissions, okay? We have to set the permissions. We set permissions for quotes. Let's say we do it just for the admin group. And we say yes to all. It's a test. Then we simply click yes to all for the fields, for all the fields except from the ID. We don't care about the ID. As we did for the table sales, create no and edit yes but disabled for owner sale. Okay, form configurator. One nice thing you can do, since quotes has exactly the same fields as sales, if you have already configured sales, you can just copy the settings. So copy sales quotes. All right, let's see what happens. So now we have a quotes menu item, and we can see 128 quotes, exactly the same number of records you have in sales having status quote. In fact, if we try to execute a search with status quote, we get 128. Okay, let's play a bit with the chart reports now. For example, let's say that from sales, we want to see who is the agent who is working better. So we generate a chart, a simple chart, we choose a bar chart, and we aggregate data by the owner of the sale. And we want a percentage. Show chart. Let's see. So Tosca has 52%, and then Alfio has 47, and Root just 0. Something. All right, very cool, but what if you want to have this report always available in your menu? Very easy. Just copy the link starting from index.php, and then we go to the admin interface, we go to custom pages, we add a new page. All right, new, we call it agents chart, for example. We enable it and copy the link. Save, exit. So now we have agents chart. Okay, I chose the wrong type. The page type must be internal link. All right, so save, exit. Okay. All right, now we always have this chart available in one click from our menu. There is another cool thing we can do with permissions. We can try the ownership permissions, a very powerful permission model provided by DaDaBIK. Let's say we want each sale representative to be able to see not all the sales, but only his or her sales. Do you remember we use the ID user field type to automatically write the user who registered a sale, right? We can take advantage of that. So permissions, sales, we choose the table sales. User group, we choose the default group. We assume that agents belong to the default group. Read, instead of yes, we choose my. I can only see my sales. Let's go back to the application. Right. So now I'm logged in as root here, so I can see all the 297 sales. The root user is part of the admin group, not of the default group. But if I logged out and log in as Alfio, another user, an agent, let's try to do that. Alfio. Sales. All right, now I can only see my sales, 140. All right. Okay, we have created the basic version of a sales management application that looks professional, it's responsive, so works fine on mobile, it's secure and enterprise ready. And we did it in less than 30 minutes without coding. In the next episode, we will see some advanced configuration features, calculated fields, custom formatting functions, custom validation functions, and hooks. So see you in the next episode. Ciao!